This is a nootropic supplement you've probably seen on the shelves at your local grocery store or pharmacy. It is, I guess you could say, is a more mainstream nootropic since it is on the shelves and easily accessible over the counter. You don't just have to order it online. It is called Neuriva, and you're probably wondering, is this nootropic any good? It's sold at the local grocery store. It must have some element of success behind it, and it must work to some capacity. So what I want to do is I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about this nootropic supplement, the ingredients, dosages, the price, and is even worth it, and then also cover their current lawsuit. Yep, another one of those nootropic companies that has a lawsuit against them. So let's just start with this. So if you're not familiar, Neuriva is actually owned by the parent company Reckitt, and they own a lot of the major, I guess, grocery store brands in different categories. Think Dettol, Durex, Mucinex. So they just essentially manufacture a lot of the, I guess, big brands in different categories across the supermarket. And I guess they decided they wanted to also get into the supplement or nootropic side and have Neuriva on the shelves too. I mean, it makes sense if you already got distribution into these grocery stores or pharmacies. Why not get something else in there to sell? So let's run through the ingredients on this. Interestingly, it's only 2 ingredients. It is very similar to what I would say is their main competitor on the shelves, Prevagen, which I have covered in a review in a previous video. But let's go through these and see if there's any research actually backing them. And I've got some notes here, so we're looking back and forth. But coffee fruit extract grows on the same plant as the coffee bean and is usually discarded. But now they've discovered that, hey, coffee bean extract may have some brain boosting benefits. Specifically, 100 milligrams has been shown to increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short, which is considered essential for brain health. And it's also associated with improvements in reaction time and may actually help you improve the accuracy of your decision making. So it sounds like a very promising ingredient, but there's a couple of things to be aware of. Firstly, every study on this extract has been funded and led by Futureceuticals Incorporated, TRI. And this company actually manufactures the coffee fruit extract and supplies many of the supplement companies with this ingredient. Now, studies funded by the supplement company themselves isn't so much of the red flag because no one is going to donate money to research a random ingredient or supplement unless they're going to get something out of it. So there's just no way for it to get funded. So I understand a company going and spending the money to do the research on their own ingredient. However, when companies usually do this, they outsource it to a third party, so that kind of removes some of the bias. But what Futureceuticals did is they actually led the study and analyzed the data themselves, which may potentially lead to some kind of biasing or skewing of the data. I'm not saying that is what has happened, but it's just something to potentially be aware of. You may also be wondering, since it actually comes from coffee, is there actually any caffeine in this? Well, there is a very, very minute amount of caffeine. Now, it actually says it's a caffeine-free formula. I believe in the advertising, they state that it's caffeine-free, which technically it is because there's only about 1 milligram of caffeine in this, because that is the makeup of coffee fruit extract. If you have Neuriva Plus, which is a double dose of the coffee fruit extract, you'll get 2 milligrams. So you can have a negligible effect and a non-stimulant effect from Neuriva. So that's the first ingredient. Maybe promising, but could also be a little bit of bias there. The second one is an ingredient that is in probably the majority of nootropic supplements, and I can never pronounce the name, so I'm going to butcher it, but phosphatidylserine. We'll just call it that. I'm not even going to say it again. It's a relatively well-studied nootropic ingredient. 100 to 300 milligrams daily positively affects memory in older adults with cognitive decline. It also may benefit people with neurodegenerative disease. Now, Neuriva has 100 milligrams, so you get the bottom end of that range. Now, whether it will work in a healthy individual who isn't experiencing neurodegenerative disease or some kind of cognitive decline, we do not really know from the research, but it seems somewhat promising, at least within that population. Also, we don't know if there's some kind of synergistic effect with the coffee fruit extract that perhaps Neuriva is trying to get out of this. Now, what's interesting is Neuriva actually did their own study on their formula. So this is different to the coffee fruit extract studies, which are done by the company that supplies coffee fruit. Now, this is a study done by the parent company Reckitt, who then wanted to test their own formula. So here's what they did. They funded, they analyzed, and they led the research on their formulation, showing 42 days of Neuriva supplementation, in quotes, significantly improved measures of memory, accuracy, focus, and concentration, and learning compared to placebo in healthy adults with self-supportive memory problem. Again, there may be some bias there. And also, we have a potential issue with the subjects having self-reportive memory problems. So they haven't been objectively tested for an issue, which leads to potential placebo effects, especially within this cohort, because they already believe they have an issue. The last thing I will say about the formulation, and I don't usually go into the inactive ingredients, but it's just one to point out, is titanium dioxide. Now, titanium dioxide is a banned additive in Europe. Now, that doesn't mean that it has adverse side effects or adverse health effects, but it's just something to be aware of, that within Europe, they do not use this ingredient, but in the USA, they obviously can, so they have that in this. And Europe banned it because they stated that they didn't find an immediate health concern, but they concluded it could no longer be considered safe in food. So that's just something to be aware of. Now, this actually takes us to their lawsuit. And their lawsuit has to do with their clinical trial that I just talked about earlier. So they were accused of falsely advertising Neuriva products as being clinically and scientifically proven to enhance brain performance, which is in violation of consumer protection laws and other laws. And this is for all three variations of Neuriva. So they have I guess you could call this the regular one or the original. They have like a plus version. They have another on top of that. Since this settlement, the parent company of Reckitt has agreed to change its labeling and marketing practices, including removing quote-unquote clinically proven from the labels of social media websites and other advertising. So that's just something to be aware of, that the clinical study they funded, analyzed, and ran essentially got them into trouble for potential false claims. So again, just something to be aware of with the supplement. Now, if we go to the price, you're looking at anywhere from around 82 cents to like $1.26 per serving. So you definitely have this particular nootropic on the lower end of price per serving compared to other nootropics on the market. I mean, some can get up to $7 per serving, which I think is actually ridiculous, and I'll cover that supplement in the near future. But this will be on the lower end in a typical scale of nootropic prices. Now, does that make it worth it because it's cheaper? Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think Neuriva is worth your money, mainly because of everything I went through in this video around the ingredients, the potential biasing in the studies, the lawsuit, when there are far better formulations that could give you brain boosting benefits. If you're wondering which one that is, check out this video next, because we actually go through our best nootropics for memory and focus. And the number one nootropic there is backed by 3 clinical studies, has a really nice non-stimulant nootropic formula, and it's going to help boost your cognitive function.